And we're live. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, and welcome to today's program, episode number 110 of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. As you're logging in, if you guys would be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, hit the like button, and feel free to continue doing so throughout the dialogue. Also, be sure to sign up for notifications for when we go live here on Facebook, if you usually catch the live program, or subscribe if you catch the final edit video. Subscribe over on the YouTube, and when you're over there, be sure to hit the notification bell as well. If you enjoy the work that I do and you'd like to support the program, please visit jkdrebel.com/store and check out our offerings. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the Jeet Kune Do dialogues. All right, so my dialogue partner today is a guy who is based in the state of Michigan, a locale which is very dear to me. It is the place where I did a bunch of summer camps, and it is also a number of Inosanto seminars I did there, but most especially it was in Lansing, Michigan in 1985. That's when I was accepted into the Inosanto Instructor program, and that changed my life. So it's my great pleasure to welcome to the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues, Nick Cavallino. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm good. So Nick and I were off camera. We're talking about the fact that he looks like somebody who should belong in the cast of Bronx Tale.
I love that movie.
Yeah. So okay. So then that is confirmed. You are what they would call Italian American, huh?
Yeah, my family immigrated here in 1972. They're from Sicily. They're from a town called Terrazini. It's a little suburb outside of Palermo. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can you raise your volume? Can you get closer to your mic or raise your volume a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds better. All right. So okay. So you said in 72?
Yeah.
All right. So on July 20th, 1973, where were you?
I was not born yet. I was not. No. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of the guys that are in the program in the Inosanto lineage, a lot of the guys that, I'm sure they remember where they were. I was not even born yet. I wasn't born until 1978. So
okay.
I don't even think Game of Death came out yet. So yeah.
Yeah. What does that have like any special impact on you? The fact that you're in a field that is surrounded by so many old guys. I mean, so old guys like me, but then that there's another bunch of old guys older than me.
What's funny is that all the older guys, those are the guys I look up to. Okay, so those are the names that I've been hearing since I started the program. So I'm like, it's funny because I'm an old guy too. I'm 41, so and I'm like sort of like the new kid on the block right now. So
yeah, but I have T-shirts that are older than you.
Yeah. So like it's cool to see, like when I went to the instructor conference in LA with all the instructors from people from around the world, like Australia, France, everywhere. I felt like I was at an all-star game. It was awesome. It was I was so excited. I was like a kid, I felt like a kid. I'm looking at all these guys. I'm like, man, these are all the instructors around the world. I'm like, I was so excited,
Right. Yeah.
And, just to be a part of the program, like I said, I feel like a kid being around it, just being around the people. And I met so many awesome people just being a part of Inosanto program. So
yeah, I mean, and then when you consider that he's been doing the instructor conferences, I mean, I know, gosh, I think he's been doing the instructor conferences for about 20 years now, or at least, right? So yeah, so okay. So how did you get your start then? Did you start out in JKD? You start out in like regular martial arts stuff or what?
No, my start in martial arts was not like everyone else's. It was kind of weird. I hear all these people's stories and they sound really cool. Like I started in Taekwondo or I started in old school karate. I got my black belt and I never had that. So I loved martial arts and I loved Bruce Lee. My uncles loved Bruce Lee. So I knew that he was the king of Kung Fu. But when when I wanted to do martial arts, my mother took me to like the closest, it was literally like I could have walked there to the karate studio. When I went there, I tried it and I didn't like it. I said, this is not what Bruce Lee did. He didn't wear these gis. He didn't wear the belt, and he didn't move like that. To me at the time, I was young. I didn't understand anything, but I didn't see that these guys moving like Bruce Lee. So I knew like it wasn't karate that he did. I knew it was kung fu, but there was no kung fu schools anywhere around my area, and my mother wasn't going to drive me somewhere that was really far. So I was like at a loss. So I would just try to learn things as I could, but I didn't really get seriously into it until later, unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but when I saw the movie Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, all right, not the best depiction of Bruce Lee's life, okay? At the time, I didn't know any better. See, Bruce Lee was this enigmatic figure. He was like, when I was a kid, we always just talk about how, oh man, he was poisoned, he died, the ninjas got him, and he was so so there was this lure to Bruce Lee that was like really, we didn't understand. Yeah. So, and I didn't know what Jeet Kune Do was. I didn't know anything about that. I had no idea about his life. I just knew he was like a Superman. He was like, he wasn't real. So, when I watched Bruce Lee, even though like I said, it wasn't a great depiction of his life, because I went out and did what everyone else did. I bought the Tao of Jeet Kune Do the next day, got obsessed with it. I started buying magazines, books, all the books I could find on Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do, and I became fascinated with just the whole idea, the method, just the thought process behind how JKD came about. And the evolution of his martial arts journey was really, really interesting to me. And that's what I think they really failed to do in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. That if you look at the fight scenes, all the fight scenes look exactly the same. There was no evolution in the way he moved, except for maybe his footwork in the ring fight that never happened at Parker's in 1967. So, but it's a good movie. It's a good love story. And I think Jason Skelly did a good job. I just thought the film was not a great depiction of Bruce Lee.
Yeah. What's funny is that just last night, I have this new 15-year-old student. So he came over last night. And just last night, we were talking about Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, because, of course, it's influential to him, But I had to burst the bubble and tell him that there's not much in the movie that's credible.
No.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I still get people telling me now, like, without the movie, I mean, there's other things that are out there, like, hey, did you ever see that video of Bruce Lee playing ping pong? I said, that's not him. It's not him. And I have to tell them, no, it's really him. It's not him. He never played ping pong in his life. He wouldn't do it with nunchucks either. Sorry to tell you. It's
right.
So, but, I mean, after learning like about the philosophy, and there's only so much you can learn from a book, but I began able to train like intensively on my own with what I had. I had all the Bruce Lee fighting methods, all of Jeet Kune Do books, everything I could find. I had stacks of books. It's funny because when I was a kid, I was real like I had like ADHD, and it was really, really hard for me to sit still. And matter of fact, my first grade teacher actually tied me to a chair. And if that would have happened today, it would be all over the news. But it wasn't a big deal back then.
Yeah, that's funny.
My mother used to tell me, you're always jumping around. But why don't you sit down, read a book? Calm down a little bit. And then I went from being like that to obsessing over all these books. And she's telling me, why don't you go outside and do something? Go and get in trouble. Or, stop reading all these books.
Yeah.
I was like sick with it. So I like I said, I began to train on my own. I had with any equipment that I could get. I tried to do the drills as best I could based on the books. Yeah. And I had to try to get friends to train with me, which was very, very hard because nobody wanted to do it. They were like obsessed like I was. I would, not hang out with my friends just to train. I would stay home on the weekend sometimes just to train, just to get something right, just to work on something that I was having trouble with.
How old were you at what age were we talking about here?
I was in junior high school when I watched the movie, and I just started to become obsessed. I think I was in the 7th or 8th grade or something like that. And then after that was I just nonstop. I mean, I used to bring books with me on vacations and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
But there was no Jeet Kune Do schools in
Were
Michigan.
you in Michigan at the time?
Yeah, I was in
Okay.
Michigan.
Okay.
But there was nothing. I mean, at the
Hmm.
time, there was no internet, so I couldn't find JKD. And I was pretty sure that the only way that I was ever going to learn it was if I moved to California and trained with Inosanto himself. So,
Right.
I happened to be reading a magazine, a black belt magazine, and there was an article about Dan Inosanto and how he was like, the only one that was, kind of given the right to teach JKD after Bruce
Hmm.
passed.
Hmm.
And I saw a list because I guess apparently there's a lot of people posing as instructors that didn't really even have any certifications or didn't train with anybody under that lineage. So
Yeah.
he came out with this article, and I still have it. And there is this page where he had like a number, a bunch of instructors certified under him, and one of them said, my instructor was Christian Malgeri, and it said Warren, Michigan at the time. So I went ballistic. I said, oh my God, there's someone in Michigan. So I had to go and find this guy. I,
Hmm.
I, I begged one of my friends to come with me, who I had to drag him with me. And he came with me, and I sat and watched the class. I remember there was Latin music he was playing. It felt like I was in LA. It was really weird. It was like Latin music was playing,
Yeah.
and he had like all these, he had all these, kali sticks in this bin, and he was doing a Muay Thai class. And I watched that class, and I was enthralled, and I was excited to see, like, man, this guy's really, really good. And he was a really, really good martial artist.
Yes. Yeah. I
Great,
remember him.
and he was dedicated. And
Hmm.
when I met him, I was so excited. I couldn't wait to start. So I signed up right there, and I made my friend. I'm like, dude, sign up with me, man. And he didn't care about it. He lasted 1 month, and he couldn't do any of the conditioning. He was dying. He was like, man,
Yeah.
I can't do this. This is way too hard. And I
Yeah.
thought I was in good shape, and I couldn't do. Man, I remember thinking I could do this. Some of the conditioning was so hard. I was like, man, I got a lot of work to do. So I would come before class, after class to train, and I was obsessed with it then too. So
Hmm.
I finally had a guy to teach me. And there was, at that time we were doing separate classes. There was like a Wing Chun class, a
Right.
Silat class,
Yeah.
a Kali class, and I wanted to do it all.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was very, I don't say I wasn't anti Kali, but I wasn't excited to do Kali because I thought it was really cool. I liked it. I really respected it. But to me, it wasn't practical. This is a real narrow-minded view at the time. I
Okay.
just wanted JKD. I wanted the trapping. I wanted to understand everything.
Right.
But it opened my eyes to Savat, to Muay Thai, to Silat, and I loved the Kali. I really did love, especially the empty hand stuff. I loved the Kali, like empty hand stuff. But
Hmm.
in the sticks, I was used to learning things very fast. I could pick up
Hmm.
things very, very quick.
Hmm.
But with Kali, for some reason, it made me feel like a failure. I was dejected every class. I would slam my sticks on the floor and say, "No, I can't do this. I don't need
Yeah.
this.
Wow.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna." And my teacher used to say, he says, Nick, you're not, when you work with the weapons, you'll notice that everything else is going to get better. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when you train with the weapons, you're going to notice that your kickboxing is going to get better, your movement's going to get smoother. And I didn't buy it. I said, what does that have to do with anything? I'm not going to carry 2 Kali sticks around with me. How's that? How am I going to defend myself with 2? I can't enter a store or anywhere like with sticks in my hands or in my back pocket. I can't carry those things with me. So how practical can it be? So I was looking for practicality,
Hmm.
but I didn't understand. This was a really big mistake on my part because I threw the weapons away for a while, for a long time, and there was a big gap of time missing from my weapons training because
Okay.
I focused on everything else but that.
Right.
And I really wish that I would have listened to him a lot earlier because he was right. He was right. And, because when I had to retrain my brain into the weaponry, he was right. It really made everything better, my movement better. I felt more complete, more well-rounded,
Hmm.
just in terms of rhythm and pace and movement and angles and just the way the movement is. I really loved it. I fell in love with it again.
Right.
And I know that there's a lot of people out there that say like well, Kali isn't part of, and I thought the same thing. Like, oh, Kali is just because, Inosanto's, he's Filipino, so he's adding his own, cultural martial art, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I had no problem with
Yeah.
that. But, going to Inosanto seminars, and the first time I heard that he was even coming to Michigan, I couldn't believe it. I said, I asked my instructor, I said, Sifu, I saw a picture of you and Dan Inosanto in this gym. He comes here?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, he's been coming here for a couple years now. I said, oh my, how did I not know about this? This is like crazy. I mean, oh my, he's going to be here? I said, yeah, he's going to be here. So I obviously I paid for the seminar. I came in and I saw him talking. Everyone was sitting down and he was in the middle and he was talking like, like a philosopher,
Yeah.
And I walked in, I said, oh my God, Dan Inosanto's right there. I could reach out and touch him. Like he's like right there. His molecules are in this building. I can't believe it. It was like and it's so crazy because, for me, like he was like the ultimate in JKD. Like out of all no disrespect to his other students, but he embodied everything that I thought JKD was, because the man is still growing. He's still learning, still experimenting.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I want to ask you about that, because when you were telling me the story of how you became obsessed with Jeet Kune Do, was there ever a time where you identified someone as the go-to person, or was it always Inosanto, or what?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I did my research on his students, and James Lee was, obviously a teacher, instructor. Taki Kumara, which I really have a high respect for him. And, there was, Taiwan was out there, too. And there's, Jerry Petit. But I really wasn't like, I really enjoyed Taki Kumara's take on JKD.
Mm-hmm.
But out of all of them, Taki impressed me. But Inosanto impressed me the most out of anybody, because he just embodied like what everything I've ever read, everything I've ever understood about JKD, he embodies it. And he's the most humble man. He shouldn't, with all the people that he's worked with and trained under, he doesn't, you would think a person like that would have some sort of ego, just a little bit, not even a little bit. I remember the first time I met him, shaking his hand, thinking like there was pictures I seen with him shaking Bruce Lee's hand, and I'm shaking the same hand, the same molecules, like I said, like unbelievable. So, like, I thought like if a man could be that humble, but he's that talented, and he has so much of a rich history with martial arts and experience.
Yeah.
Like, this is a guy, obviously, he's the closest thing to a Mr. Miyagi you're ever gonna get. He's I mean, I hate to say it, no one's perfect, but he's like the closest thing to like that guy that, you look at as the master. But like I said, he embodied everything that JKD was. He's constantly growing. He doesn't stay in a box.
Hey, do you know that he stunt doubled for that actor, the Mr. Miyagi actor?
No way.
Yeah, he did. I think it was after Karate Kid. Pat Morita did a TV series called I think it was called O'Hara. He was like a detective.
Wow.
And Inosanto stunt doubled for him for at least one episode.
I had no idea. I know he's done a lot of stunt work and film. He's worked with a lot of actors too, which is really
all
awesome.
over the place, man.
Yeah, I had no idea that he was in Big Trouble in Little China. That little part that he gets shot.
Yeah, for like 2 seconds.
I did not know that. So it was strange, but I mean, overall, like Inosanto was like like I said, he's just he is JKD to me. He's if you want to live in the JKD world and do it wholeheartedly, I think it's the way he's doing it is just the best, because he's learning Sistema now. He's doing all kinds of stuff. He's always constantly learning, and that's something that
but like you said, but there are people who criticize him. So what would be your comment to somebody who's like critical of Dan Inosanto?
Well, I think most of the people that are out there, and I've seen these guys. I've heard these people. I've seen them make comments and stuff like that. Which, I mean, their comments are really uneducated, because they don't really know him. I've gone to some seminars, and that's not really, like, you're not really doing it justice, because first of all, he's not the kind of guy who would like sit there and talk trash about another instructor or another Bruce Lee student, or he's not that kind. I've never heard him say anything. And there's guys that are saying, well, where did Bruce Lee never did Kali. Are you sure? Did you ever watch Enter the Dragon? Did you miss the double stick part? Did you miss the nunchucks? Where do you think he learned that? And it's if JKD is, if they say like, oh, it's only fencing, boxing, and Wing Chun. If that's the case, okay, if you've seen his evolution as a martial artist, okay, if you look at the Junfan Kung Fu era, okay, the very beginning when he was with the real early students, okay, like the real early guys, 1959.
Okay.
That all the way to 1963 or 64, okay? There was an evolution even before he fought Wong Jack Man, okay? He was changing. He was doing more work. He was working with Fook Young in Seattle area, who was a friend of his father's. He was learning all kinds of different martial arts styles. Like he was learning I think it was Tiger. He was learning Praying Mantis, Southern Mantis. And he's also a Wing Chun guy. So he was getting a lot more Wing Chun material while he was in Seattle, because this guy was a friend of his father's who in the opera. So he was continuing to train. Now he doesn't really, there's not a whole lot of information like about Fook Young, but there's certain students that in the early years that do remember that he was continuing training. So if that part was, I mean, he was obviously he was doing Bagua, all kinds of different stuff. Then in 1964, he says, you know what, look, everything that I've learned brought me this far, but there's way more work to be done, okay? If Bruce didn't do anything else, why would he have notes on all these other stuff? Like if you want to put JKD in a little box and say, well, it's just this, and this is all Bruce Lee taught in this time, so this is all I got to learn. And that's fine. If that's what works for you, great. But the thing is, if you think Bruce Lee was going to stay there, he was constantly evolving. Remember that. He was constantly changing. What JKD was in 64, 65 wasn't the same in 1968, 69, 70. Right. He was very different, vastly different. Yeah.
But there's no notes on Kali.
No, but it doesn't mean when Inosanto talked about like, because I whenever we went to dinner, I'm that guy who like wants to ask him all these questions, like
I know that guy. I know that guy.
So like you sit by him, and you're polite, you don't badger the guy, but I always want to ask him questions about, like I even pull, even during the seminar I pull him to the side and ask him questions about certain things. And I said, when you brought up like Kali to Joe Bruce, what did he say? He said, well, he told me what he liked about it. He definitely told me what he didn't like about it. Mm-hmm. But he did that with everything. Every art, he would dismantle it. He would cut it down like into what he thought worked, but that was what he thought worked for him. Right. We have to look at everything from our perspective. So if JKD is a very personal thing, if you're doing real JKD, or if you say original JKD, okay, you're basically doing what's good for Bruce Lee. I mean, maybe that works for you, but I know that Bruce Lee is a very unique individual. He had even his body was unique. He had one leg extremely longer than the other. He had extremely long arms for a guy who was about 5'7", 5'8". I don't have those kind of attributes that he had. Okay, so I have to work with what I have. Like at that time, he had boxers that he was looking at, like Gene Tunney. He was looking at guys like even Jack Dempsey. Right. But everyone says, "Oh, Muhammad Ali was the guy." He looked. Yeah, he did for his footwork, sure. But he also looked at Jersey Joe Walcott. Jersey Joe Walcott was another guy he looked at because he had really good footwork also. Willie Pep. Okay, but.
Okay. All right. Stop right there.
Hmm?
Stop right there. How do you know this?
Oh, study.
How do you know this? You were born in 78. How dare you know all this stuff?
Well, because a lot of the boxing, I was really fascinated with boxing, and when I learned that Bruce was a huge boxing fan too, I wanted to look at all the fighters that he was looking at, and I wanted to kind of dissect what he liked about them, why he watched these guys, and I wanted to look at their traits and what they were famous for. And he had video fight footage from all these guys back in the day, even like Jack Johnson, which is really hard to find. I mean, nowadays you can find it on YouTube, but back then that's very hard to find. But a lot of these guys, he liked them for specific reasons. And if Inosanto will tell you that as much as on the outside he would use like some footwork from Ali and Jersey Joe Walcott, but when he really got into it, when he would trade with you. He looked more like a Joe Frazier. He would dig with you. He would dig deep. So, you know, as much as we see like, you know, him in the films when he's moving, he's dancing around. Yeah, on the outside he would do that, but when he would close the gap on you, he would trade with you, and he would try to close that gap. He was really a master at closing the gap. That's what everyone says that sparred with him. You know.
Yeah, I hate to promote the stereotype, but you're Italian American.
Mm-hmm.
You're from Michigan.
You're right.
You had to be a boxer, huh?
No. I wish I was. I wanted to get into boxing and kickboxing. The problem was I had it was actually after I watched that movie, the Dragon, the Bruce Lee story.
Yeah.
I started training. Okay, I had gotten into a really bad car accident. I'm lucky to be alive. The things that I had to go through, but I had a really bad brain injury, and it was I had a soft spot in my skull for a while, and I had problems with my speech, and my even some motor skills were a little bit weird, and my memory was really bad, and I had a lot of bleeding in my brain.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to get back to normal, but once I got back to normal, I actually asked my my doctor. I said, I want to have like some fights, I just want to fight like 4 or 5 times just so we see what it's like, and because I had friends that were doing it, and I wanted to do it. I wanted to just experience it. And he brought me into this room. He's like, "Oh, you want to be a fighter? Okay, let me show you something." He was a brain injury specialist, so he brought me into this room with these people that had brain injuries, severe brain injuries, that had all kinds of issues. That I was sitting down. He just sat me there and just watch, just sit there. I'll be. And everybody there had a different, unique problem. There was a guy who was rocking back and forth, and another guy was repeating himself over and over again. And I was looking around like, what am I doing here? And the doctor came back. He says, "Did you see what those people are dealing with? Do you want to be like that? Do you know how stupid it is that you asked me to? You want to fight? You want to be a boxer? You're an inch away from being like that. So you tell me, do you think that's really smart?" So he scared me. He scared me to death. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, maybe that's not in my cards, but I still wanted to train. So I still continued to train. I still continued to spar pretty hard. Yeah. And it's pretty, so you had some sparring matches with people that, you're trying to take your head off, and, it's not really the best thing. But I also played hockey too. So I wasn't much of a fighter, but I was more of a speedy guy. I was trying to get, short legs and everything. So I had to get away from these big guys. When
did you start hitting the gym?
Early. When I started reading Bruce Lee's books, he placed a big emphasis on physical fitness and how important that was to last. If he used to say, like, if you can't do X amount of sit-ups or push-ups, or you have no business being in martial arts or being in a fight. So I took that really serious. So I started doing road work. The basic training book was like, I lived by that. And then later I had that book, this one right here, The Art of Expressing the Human Body, which had his workouts. And I already had most of his workouts already. So I started doing those workouts.
Okay.
But I really wasn't in like a big lifter. I didn't lift heavy or anything like that. I just wanted to make sure that I was in good, shape, strong. Yeah. But I wanted my performance, my speed was the most important thing to me, because I'm not a really big guy. So I want to be fast. I want to be able to beat someone to the punch every time. So that was more important to me. I knew that if I was big, really big, like when I have no neck, I can't move. So, and I had I have a cousin who, he was really heavily into bodybuilding, and he helped me out a lot in understanding about like lifting, how to lift, what kind of lifting you should do, even diet. Like he would help me with what to eat. And I started learning more and more about that as I went along. Even Bruce's diets were bizarre, but they worked for him, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that explains then why about a month ago when I did the open Q&A dialogues, and you said something about instructors just focusing on technique training and not the total package or something. You remember?
Yeah, that's see, what I meant by that was there are a lot of instructors that you see that they're they're highly technical, and that's great.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I respect their talent and their skill. But
Mhm.
the thing is, if they were to face someone that was equally skilled, the person who's in better shape is going to win. And
Mhm.
I always believe that you should be like a billboard for what you're doing. And if you have to set the example. I'm big on setting an example. Like if you say all these things, if you do all these, you have to back it up. You can't say, well, you guys got to do this conditioning, even though I have a belly that's hanging over my belt. You guys got to do all these sit-ups, and no, I have to back up what I'm saying. So if I'm telling my students they got to do this, they got to do that, they got to work hard in the training and the conditioning, I have
Yeah.
to be. I can do that too. I do that too. I put myself through hell, and it's funny when you're saying like it's an age thing, Nick. Believe me, I know. Believe me, I wake up in the morning and it sounds like a symphony of walnuts when I step that off the bed. Everything's
Yeah.
cracking and hurting, and I feel like a giant wound every day. My body is sore and it hurts. Okay, and
Okay.
when I say
I'm
I
gonna I'm
have to
gonna
train,
help you with that. I'm gonna help you with that. There's a guy online. He looks just like you, except he's German, but he's got the bald head and he's super fit as well. I think over on the YouTube, I think it's either calisthenics and body weight or it's calisthenic movement. Do you know these guys?
no, not a fan. No.
Okay, all right. So you got to look them up, or I'll send you the link or what have you. He has, I think it's 3 exercises that you got to do as soon as you climb out of the bed, or if possible, do them in the bed before you get up.
See, I'm not exaggerating when I say I'm going to look that up as soon as I'm done because I'm always interested to find a new way on how to not hurt, not to be in
Yeah,
pain every
yeah.
day because I put my body through a lot of stuff and I take, listen, I take a lot of vitamins and minerals and everything and I try to eat a clean diet as much as
Hmm.
possible.
Hmm.
But it's hard. Look, when I wake up in the morning and I say, okay, I got to go train. My brain says that. My body
Right.
looks at me and says, are you kidding me right now? You can't even move. So like there's a constant battle, okay, and there's
Yeah.
it's interesting because I'm a huge fan of Harinder Singh. He's a really good example for me. He's the guy
Hmm.
I've been looking at the most, like to kind of sort of model what I'm trying
Yeah.
to accomplish. He's an awesome martial artist and he's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
When I was looking to, start my own project here, I actually messaged him and I wanted to know what he thought. Is there anything you could tell me, anything advice? Because I know, he was starting his own thing at the time.
Right.
And the guy was so cool. He messaged me and not only did he message me, he says, hey, can I call you? I said, you're going to call me? Yeah, 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 yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, for sure. He just got off a flight and he was calling me. This guy was unbelievable. I couldn't believe because I'm a huge fan of this guy. I was like starstruck. So he called me. We talked martial arts for about an hour. Like we talked
Right.
about everything, fitness, how to train.
Yeah.
He's awesome, man. I talked to him a few times on the phone and just, he checked in on me like, hey, man, how's everything going?
Yeah.
And he's an awesome, awesome guy. So he
I'm
was,
I'm I'm assuming you've seen his 2 episodes on the dialogues, right?
oh, for sure. I've watched him like probably three
Oh,
times
okay.
each.
Okay.
He's an
Yeah.
awesome guy. He's an
Yeah,
awesome
he's
guy.
one of my favorite people too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the real Rick Brochere wants me to ask you. He says that in your Instagram, where you seem to live, right? You had a slogan, I guess, on a post that said "all in or all out,"
Yeah.
and Rick wants you to expand on that.
I like Rick. Rick's a great guy too, by the way. I met him at at a seminar, and I thought he's a really great guy and a great martial artist, by the way.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
he's been doing it for a long time too. So
we
I'm
got the best.
but when I say things like that, it's when you're training, when you're doing it, you can't half-ass it. You can't. You got to put yourself all into it. So, and I tell my students this the same thing is you got to really put yourself in the situation where, like when you're training, let's say you're doing bag work, okay, you're doing heavy bag. Are you going to just hit the surface of the bag? Or are you going to punch through the bag? Are you hitting the bag? Or are you sparring the bag? Are you putting yourself mentally in the situation where, hey, if you've ever been in a fight, you know how that feels. It's an emotional thing to it. There's obviously a physical strain, but it's emotional, psychological too. And there's that part that people don't want to talk about a lot, is that changes your whole, your physical ability too. Because if you don't know how to control that sort of fear and anxiety, that will kind of just take you out real fast, because your muscles will lock up. You start to get fatigued real fast, and you'll cower. You won't know what to do. So training that hard, you gotta put yourself mentally in a situation where, if you're protecting your family or just yourself. But imagine you're with your kids or something, and you gotta. There is no like running. You can't. You have kids with you. You can't run with them. You have to face this problem. What are you gonna do? What's your answer? So you have to rely on the training that you do, and you don't want to be that guy that says, "I wish I would have trained more. I wish I would have prepared for this." You never know. Hopefully, that never happens to any of us.
Yeah.
But if you are training in martial arts, the ultimate goal is to be able to use this when it's called upon. You don't have to think about it. It's already in your body. It's in your system. This is what you do. This is not just like a hobby on the side. This is who you are. It's part of who you are. So you take it seriously.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna give you actually. It's a funny coincidence. So I'm gonna give you a tip, and you can make use of this or not.
Mm-hmm.
But and this happened just either on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. I was listening to an old business associate of mine, and here's what he does at his company. And he's not a Jeet Kune Do guy. He actually runs a publishing company, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got like 100 or something employees. But here's what they do in their weekly meeting. No, I think it's in their daily meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I'm going to do. So I'm gonna buy a bunch of like poker chips that say "all in" on them, and give one each to every student. So you got to bring it to class with you every time you show up. And before we start class, everybody must turn in their all in chip. That's
a pretty good idea.
And then they get it back at the end of class. Because every time you show up,
it puts it in their mind. Like, this is okay, for a reason. I tell my students very similar things. Like, when you're here, this should be your sanctuary. This should be a place where you come and you let go of everything that you're dealing with at work or at home or, in your personal life, whatever. You're here now. You are physically here. I need you mentally here, emotionally here. Put everything aside. When you're here, this is your time. You're paying for this time.
Yep.
Make the most of it. You're only here for, an hour, 2 hours, but make the most of it. Don't just come in here and be standing there doing, okay, I'm just going to go through the motions. You gotta be the motion, man. You can't just, how do you do martial arts and not be present? I mean, you're moving your body, and I always equate martial arts almost like dancing. Okay, so you hear people that talk about dance. It is a freedom of expression. And martial arts for us, especially for JKD people, we are talking about expression, our own physical, personal expression of the martial art. So the instrument you're using is your body. So you can't help but be present. And I can tell when someone's kind of struggling with something that they're thinking. I can tell that even the kids' classes, like when the kids are thinking about video games and candy or whatever, I put it right there. I stop them right there, because that becomes a pattern. So you got to knock it out right away. You say, look, hey, I need you here with me right now. This is what we're doing. We're not doing anything else. We're not doing video games right now. We're not talking about, when you get home. No, think about this right now. This is what you need to do. So I have to put that in their head all the time. In the adult class, in the kids class, they have to be present. And this is that's the only way you're going to get the most out of what you're doing. If you're not, and to Rick's answer, if you didn't buy in all the way, you're shortchanging your success. Not just in martial arts, in anything. If you're not fully invested in what you're doing, you're not going to be very successful. You're not going to be. If it's just a hobby, then that's as far as you're going to go. You're going to hit that plateau and you're going to stop. If it's part of who you are, part of your life. You're going to keep going. It's going to be part of your growth.
Mm-hmm. Where do you get insights on how to teach and what have you? Like I mean, if you got a kids class, because I actually saw pictures of you with the kids. So where did like the transformation from student to instructor, like how did that come about?
That's a good question. So my instructor, my school, I had great instructors. I had, Chris Malgeri was, he was probably one of the best.
Oh, I got to ask you something. Were you at the school where the boxing ring was like a floor level boxing ring?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. That's where I was. Yeah. That's where I was.
That was called the Kali Academy. So that was like started. It was like the pit. We called it the pit because there was no air conditioning in the summer and there was no heat in the winter. So we would warm up. We would be punching and everything. There would be like the steam from our mouths and everything in the winter. And then like in the summertime you would lose like 10 pounds without even trying because you would sweat. We were sweating so much and it was so hot.
I loved it. Yeah, I really liked that place.
Yeah, I loved it. I had a great time there, and I learned a lot. And I had there wasn't just Chris Malgeri. There was other instructors there that really helped me to understand. Like I had a guy, his name's Mike Shepard. He was a great person to watch because he was funny. He had my kind of sense of humor, so I liked going to his classes. And I had Victor Goichevic, which was really helped me on a deeper level understand the philosophical parts of JKD and martial arts, and even just yourself, your spirituality. He really helped me to understand myself deeper. And there was Ziad Eliash, who was also an assistant instructor there. He was really nice, really kind. He always put in the time with us. So he, all those guys really had a huge hand in making me understand about JKD. And I learned a lot from being an instructor from them too. But when my instructor moved, he ended up moving to Alaska. So I debated what I was going to do. What am I going to do? Where am I going to train? Because it's a funny story. I actually told my instructor, Chris, when I first started, the first 2 weeks I was there, I said, man, I would love to be an instructor. I really want to do this. He says, why do you want to do it? So I'd love to be part of the legacy, part of Bruce Lee, part of this whole lineage. I just want to be able to pass this stuff on to people. I just want to be a part of it. And he says, oh, man, you don't want to do this. And, he was kind of telling me he was, again, he was a really good martial artist. So, and he was telling me all the cons about, or the bad parts.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I don't make any money or, all that stuff. But he really crushed my dream there. So I didn't think about teaching. I just thought, what, I'm going to train. I'm going to just be good at whatever I can be good at.
Right.
And I just, that kind of went away. The desire to teach wasn't really there, I guess, after a while. So when I left the school and I was debating what to do, I was thinking about joining the JKD Athletic Association with Harinder Singh because he was the guy I was looking at a lot at that time. And but then I had someone who asked me to teach at a school that he was opening up, and I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. So at the time, we had, when we first started, we were first starting out, so we didn't have a lot of students. We had like 2 or 3 students at the beginning. So I had to teach these people, and most of them were older. And I thought, how am I going to teach an older guy? Is he going to respect? I'm a younger guy. Is he going to listen to anything I say? I was coming from a different, understanding.
Right.
But the more I did it, the more I understood. This is my field. I am fully confident in what I do, what I'm doing, how I do it. So I didn't stop worrying about that. But I gained a lot of experience at this school. I learned a lot of things about being an instructor, being a better martial artist, just being a better person, how to deal with people. Because when you're in the service industry, you deal with a lot of people, a lot of different personalities, and you have to learn how to adapt to it. And the
That's cool that you call it the service industry.
Yeah, because you're
cool.
You're a service for people.
Yeah.
But, I learned a lot from my instructor and other instructors that I had, how to teach. And as much as you love Inosanto, but he teaches the way he's teaching. It's a seminar. He just unloads information, and he'll show you 12 variations of the same technique.
Hmm.
and then you're still stuck on the first one they showed, and you're like, whoa, whoa. I remember I took my students to an Inosanto seminar. It was the funniest thing because the first thing that we did, everybody stood there with their sticks like this. They were just like, and they looked at me, and I said, "Calm down. I know.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
go over. Don't worry. Just pick one. We're just gonna pick
Right,
one thing at a time. Okay, we're not gonna do all of those."
right.
They were scared. Like, what is this? How am I gonna know all that? It takes time. It takes time. So, but I learned a lot from like just being a part of the school and learning how to deal with people. And I liked when I go to seminars, I would pick up things from like Eric Paulson, Rick Fay, Inosanto, obviously Professor Salem, Ajahn
Hmm.
Chah, all these guys. You would go to these seminars and you would see how they teach a group, and you start to pick up certain things. Now I can't be a Rick Fay. But I really did love the way he taught classes because he was so nice. He was he's a badass.
Yeah,
And if you're that much of a badass, you can't be that nice. But he is. He is
yeah,
such a nice guy, and because he's self-deprecating, he makes fun of himself. He makes jokes. He makes everyone feel like, and he's very approachable. Like that's how I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a jerk. I didn't want to be like a macho guy, so nobody can come up to me. I constantly make fun of myself, and because it tends to make people feel more at ease. And okay, this guy's okay. He's not going to kill me. He's not going to, he's not a mean guy or whatever.
hmm,
Sometimes when it comes to conditioning, I am hard on people, but but overall, I learned pieces from different instructors. Like even two of my instructors that I had in the beginning, they've become my training partners now. So we train like 2 to 3 days a week. So I still pick their brains, and I still like value what they say. Like I always question things.
yeah,
So in martial arts, you have a lot of people, especially like in the Wing Chun community. Okay, there's a lot of theory. Everything's theory, and theory's great. Okay, I love Wing Chun, by the way, and I love Wing Chun. I do. But there is some flaws in it. There's some things that are in it that don't, you question.
right.
And when you talk to a guy who's a Wing Chun guy, and I've talked to many, you have people that, like, I remember I was in a Starbucks one time, and that sounds so snobby in the Starbucks, but I was in a Starbucks getting a quick coffee, okay, and there was this guy who saw my shirt. He says, "Hey, you do martial arts?" I said, "Yeah, I teach over here." He says, "Oh, what do you teach?" I'm going through what we do, and he says, "Oh yeah, I used to do Muay Thai, but now I'm doing Wing Chun." I'm like, "Well, that's a big contrast." So he's like, "Yeah, I just love the philosophy of it, the theory." I said, "Yeah, it's great, man." I said, "That's awesome. We should keep going with that." I said, "I love Wing Chun. We talked about martial arts, and we talked about Wing Chun." I said, "The only problem I have with Wing Chun is it's a lot of sometimes it gets too theoretical and too weird with that." And then he says, "Well, because some people are like, our Wusao has to be out here. No, it's over here. No, it's over there." All these stupid details are like, okay, I'm not of like the theory thing. Me is like, okay, show me. Like,
Right.
and I'm not saying in a bravado kind of way. It's like, show me what it means, okay? Because I've used the Wusao this way and that way. It doesn't really matter because every instructor will tell you their way is the best and it's the only way. And through my experience, it's really a personal thing. It's not like oh, your tonsils got to be 45 degrees from this way. It's just, come on, man. Like it's not going to be that way in a real actual situation. So like even like the dummy sets, I'm not a, I like Wing Chun dummy sets. I'm not a big fan of all of them, but I like the JKD sets. Those are more applicable for me.
Hmm.
But I still train the Wing Chun sets. I'm not really like I might not train them as much as I do the other sets. But like I said, like when it comes to like certain martial arts, there's people that just they're ready to die on that hill. It's like, oh, this is the only way to do it. No, you can't do chi sao like that. You got to do chi sao like this. Yeah, I said, look, if we fight, I'm not gonna chi sao with you, man. That's a moment in time.
Yeah,
If I can't move or if I can't shift, what are we doing here? We're playing a game then. It's not really sparring. It's not fighting because you're putting out all these rules. We already have the thing where we have to stay here. So after that, it should be anything goes. So if you're going to be more, make your martial art into an application, because that's the thing I always tell my students is every drill that we do, no matter what it is, I want you to think about how this applies in sparring or in real life. How can I use this in real application? And you'll start to see that people will start to train in a more realistic fashion. They'll pick up the pace. They'll start to do things a lot more with more seriousness and more intention, which is what I want my students to do. I want my students to be able to handle themselves if they ever have to deal with the situation. I want them to be fully confident in what they do.
Yeah. What is, going back to the stuff that you had asked me a month ago, the other thing that you asked about was, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, personal Jeet Kune Do. And your question was along the lines of like the composition of my personal Jeet Kune Do in percentages.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I should have elaborated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a comment on Facebook, you know. So
yeah.
What I meant, okay, now's your chance.
Yeah, what I meant was when you teach your curriculum, or because there tends to be, if you go from school to school and instructor to instructor, their JKD is made up of more of this, less of that, and it's whatever they're basically mostly what they're really comfortable with teaching or comfortable with doing. And as far as combat, that's not what I meant. I know it probably sounded like that, but based on combat, your JKD depends on the person you're dealing with at the time. So it's not really, that's a hard question to answer to anybody. But as far as like your teaching, that's what I meant to ask you, is because I was curious to know what you focus on the most. Or do you have like for me, I have a blended curriculum to where every week we have a theme. So that theme might be French boxing. It might be, JKD trapping or Jun Fan trapping. It might be, Muay Thai. Every week we change the theme so that the student has time for that week to kind of go over the mechanics, understanding the technique, and feel more comfortable with what they're doing.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about the structure behind that. So if we've got 4 weeks in a month, and in week number 1, the theme is Muay Thai. In week number 2, the theme is Boxe Française. In week number 3, the theme is trapping. And let's say the theme in week number 4 is grappling. What happens next month?
Well, I mix my trapping with a lot of Filipino stuff too. So there's like the Panantukan, the Pananjakman. I do that with when we say trapping, Kali has a lot of trapping in it, and we do that, or we'll have like a Jun Fan, sort of theme, but we don't have like it's 4 weeks. We have like just every week, it's something different every time, but we stick with what's in the curriculum mainly. But the school right now, we opened in October, so our curriculum is, I'm still working on the whole thing, but the beginning level is it's basic like movement and boxing, kickboxing. I didn't put any trapping in the first level because I think that you should have a foundation in movement first, and then we get the more detailed infighting, close range stuff later at the later levels. But the grappling is more. It's more like I would say closer to Eric Paulson, sort of CSW type style, because I've only had exposure to that mostly. I just started BJJ. I know it's pretty late, but
because you got the emblems in the back behind you.
Yeah, that's
run through those for us. My
business partner, he's a black belt in BJJ. He's a 2nd degree black belt in BJJ under Marcelo Montero, which that's his logo in the middle, and my partner's logo that he has is it's off to that side. So his name is Hashem. He's a really, really great guy, and he's very, very knowledgeable in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He knows his stuff. We trained at the same school, so we had the same instructor, but he focused more on the grappling portion of the classes. Obviously more on the JKD sort of like trapping and kickboxing and stuff like that. So
so the two of you together, that's allied martial arts.
Yeah, we came together.
Right?
We do
because he's Azer BJJ.
Yeah, and I'm adaptive.
And then adaptive See, now the first time I saw you and I saw Adaptive, you're not going to believe this. I saw it and I go, I bet you this guy's from Michigan and he's associated with Dave Hatch.
How did you know that? Oh, because of attributive?
Yes, I swear to you.
Yeah.
I swear to you. The very first time I saw it, I go, I know exactly where this is. And I was right.
Steve Hatch, he's my instructor too. He's a great guy, and not only is he a great guy, I mean, he's a very, very talented martial artist. You guys, like, some of the things that he does in the seminars is amazing. Like, I remember we were all having trouble in the seminar, in Inosanto seminar, with a certain, I think it was a certain disarm that nobody could get. We were all trying, nobody could do it. He goes up there with Simo Linda, pulls it off like no sweat. He's done this stuff for so long, he understands. Right. He was the only guy that could do it at that time. Like, nobody, like, oh wow, like, everyone was so. But for me, it was like, this guy's amazing. He's a Superman, and he's been around it for a long time, like you have. Like, you're lucky you're not here, because I'd be calling you every day. I call Sifu Hatch like all the time, and that poor guy, I keep him on the phone for like 2 hours sometimes. And I ask, what was it like training with Yori Nakamura?
Right. Yeah.
What's he like? What's Chris Kent like? All these questions, like, what does this guy do? What is his specialty? And what was it like training in the 80s with these guys? And like, he has so many awesome stories, and he knows like all the big names, and
right.
He's trained with some of the best people. So, and so have you. Like, you guys are so lucky. Like, I wish I knew, like, there was the seminar circuit when I was younger. If I would have known that when I was a kid, man, I would have joined as much as early as I could.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a life. But the thing is, and it's one of the reasons why I do this. I mean, because now we're gonna have people being exposed. So, like, I mean, in the weeks ahead, I've got like Bob Breen is coming on fairly soon, and he's like the granddaddy of Jeet Kune Do in the United Kingdom. I mean, so then later on, I've got Davis Lear, and Dave, he dates back to the Kali Academy in Torrance in the mid 1970s. So yeah, so we're gonna have the legends chronicled, right, forever, because we're on the internet, which is forever. So nobody's going anywhere. What did you study outside of martial art to help you with martial art?
Well, I'm a certified massage therapist, believe it or not. So I wanted to learn about the body. So in high school and junior high, I wouldn't say, I got good grades or anything, but the one thing I always did good in was biology and science. Science was my favorite subject.
Okay.
I wasn't very good at, the math or anything else. I hated numbers, so I was good in that. But in science, I found it fascinating to understand about cells and the way the body works. Biology was really fascinating to me. I wanted to learn about how things worked in the body to try to understand, like, how to keep my body in optimal condition to where I can do what I want to do for the rest of my life. So it was kind of like a quest to understand, my abilities, my wherever I needed to work on things. So, like, I understood, and obviously I looked into physical fitness. I have a ton of, resources from, books and videos and things like that. And so I did most of my research, in reading, a lot of reading. I was a big nerd when it came to, like, nutrition and supplementation, vitamins and what they do in the body, how the effects they have on the body. So I did a lot of that stuff. It was all geared towards making me a better martial artist or athlete. So I was, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't really think about anything else. I used to work, on the assembly line in the auto industry. I used to do construction, which I hated that job because I was so tired. At the end of the day, I had no energy to train, but I'd still train. I'd had a lot of bad training days because I was so exhausted. But that was mainly physical fitness and science. I really liked understanding about the body and what it's capable of doing, what you can do with it. So it always fascinated me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You just answered another question there, because I was going to ask you if you knew how to do anything else besides martial arts. So
not very well. I can't like, I'm not, I'm not even good with my phone yet still. So I'm not tech savvy or anything.
Yeah,
I'm very, I know it's not very JKD of me, but I haven't really adapted to that kind of life yet. So I'm still
yeah.
working on it. But I mean, I might be able to change a tire, maybe. I don't know,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah, but that's what AAA is for. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
That's
Um,
what I would do. Yeah.
yeah. So, tell me about that. I mean, you're sometimes you're part of all the Jeet Kune Do discussions that we have going
Mhm.
on Facebook. If somebody commissioned you with the task of coming up with a simple description or explanation of what Jeet Kune Do is, what do you tell them?
I mean, obviously, it's a loaded question, but it's through my understanding and research that I've done for years. Okay, um, it's you, from what I can put together is it's not something that is static, or it's not stationary. It's constantly changing, morphing, and moving. It's constantly adapting and it's evolving. So the thing that I have, in my personal opinion, to when you hear these guys that are like, oh, I'm the original JKD, you know, it, to put it in that box and keep it there, I really don't believe that that's what it's meant to do. I really don't. And I think that if you know anything about Bruce Lee, he was constantly changing as not just a martial artist, but as a human being. He was changing his views on things. I mean, remember Dan Inosanto said he used to change the curriculum every month. Every month he would change it. He would add something to it or take something out. He was always changing it. He would say, well, this is good. And then the next
Right.
week or two, he'd say, oh, this is no good. Throw it out. He was always like that. So to think that JKD is this and that's it,
Mhm.
I think you're doing it a complete disservice. I think it's so much more than that, but it's hard to explain to people. It's if you tell them, I think that the cop out is, oh, it's just mixed martial arts, right? No, no, it's not. It's not so much that. There's so much more to it that you have to it's a very personal thing. It's like a DNA code. Your own personal DNA code. Your JKD is going to be personal to you. If you're doing Bruce Lee's JKD as he did, then you're just kind of stealing it's like stealing his jacket. Like I'm wearing his jacket,
Mhm.
you can't do that. You got to, what's personal to you? I might be able to take some things and make them work for me, but I'm not Bruce Lee and neither are
Yeah.
you. No, all these guys out there that are saying that I'm doing the real Bruce Lee JKD, you're not. No, you're not. And most of the guys that are doing that, they're not doing it because I know if you're doing Bruce Lee's JKD as he did, you would. A lot of these guys are overweight or they're not really taking care of their body. So you're obviously not doing it like Bruce Lee did, because if that and JKD, he said, hey, you got to be in shape. You got to be in top shape if you have no business being a martial art.
Mhm.
But we are all different. You can't expect us to be just like Bruce Lee. It's not possible. Okay, so you know, we, many of us don't have that much time that he had because that's all he did. Okay,
Right.
so most
Yeah.
of us have work. We have work. We have people have kids. They have wife and whatever. They can't devote all that time to being perfect in every area.
Mhm.
So I think it's a lazy way to say like, oh, Bruce Jeet Kune Do is just this, this and this, just fencing, boxing, and Wing Chun. That's a real lazy way of doing it. I think to me it sounds like those people, they just don't want to learn anything else. They don't have the guts to go and tread waters that they've never tread before. And it's because they want to feel like, oh, I'm doing the official what Bruce Lee did, and no, you're
Yeah.
not. If you are, you're just being a copycat. And what you want to be a poor man's Bruce Lee? Why? Be yourself. That's what
Right.
you should be. You should want to do things that fit you. Like for me, all the boxers that I watched, as much as Muhammad Ali is great, I couldn't really do what Muhammad Ali did. I don't have his size. I don't have his reach. So I looked
Right.
at guys like Mike Tyson. Okay, because I came up
Right.
in the '80s. So like Mike Tyson, why? Well, because he had short arms. He was a
Yeah.
short guy. He
Yeah.
fought guys that are way bigger than him. And how did he get inside? Head movement. So that's the style that I stole. I kind of took a lot from him in my boxing, and
Yeah.
also Julio Cesar Chavez because he was a small guy too, and he had a
Okay.
chin, an iron chin. The guy would. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't getting hit, whatever. But I'm saying,
But see, but here's the thing. But you stuck to boxing,
Mhm.
right? I think what they'll say is when you say, right? So now I'm speaking for your detractors, right?
Right.
What they'll say when you say it was always changing, they'll say that you're implying that Jeet Kune Do changes, and so now you can put this other art into Jeet Kune Do or that other art into Jeet Kune Do. And so obviously you don't understand Jeet Kune Do, because that example you just gave of boxing, you just looked at you still looked at boxing. You didn't go, right, put, Hapkido, right, into it, into your boxing. You stayed in boxing, but you analyzed within boxing. So now you have to answer the detractors who say, well, when Nick Cavallino says that Jeet Kune Do changes, he's trying to say that you can put Sistema into Jeet Kune Do, that you can put Kali into Jeet Kune Do, that you can put whatever into Jeet Kune Do, and that's not Jeet Kune Do. So now you're going to deal with that.
But you say, okay, look at Way of the Dragon. When the guy's like, he's like, why don't you do that? He said, oh, it's Japanese. No, it's foreign. He's like, it doesn't matter. He said, if it helps you look after yourself when you're in a fight, you should use it. It shouldn't matter where it comes from. So in other words, if I did a Taekwondo kick and I hit you and I land, are you going to say, well, that's not a Jeet Kune Do kick? You stole that from the Taekwondo. I think that's the real dumb way to. I think if it's a personal thing. Jeet Kune Do. That's why I think he regretted giving it a name, because I think as he was changing, as he was going, getting older, as he was evolving, he's like, now. So that means that if it's intercepting, the way of the intercepting fist. Does that mean that everything I do has to be interception? That's the goal. That's the goal, the ultimate goal.
That's the highest level.
If you've sparred at all, anybody who sparred knows you can't intercept every single time. It's not possible. Okay. And I know a lot of these guys that talk all this garbage, they don't spar very often. You can tell they don't spar. They run on theory. Oh, I can intercept you. No, you won't. And even if you do, everyone's chin is different. You don't know if your shot's going to knock me out. You know what I mean? You have no idea. There's so many variables when it comes to combat. And what kind of a fight are we talking about? Are we talking about hands up, your hands are up and we're going to fight. We're going to do-si-do and move. Or are we talking about like a sucker punch or a tackle from the side or, a group, a gang fight? What are we talking about? There's so many things that we can't, we're talking about combat. There are so many variables when it comes to combat. And to say like, oh, well, you can't use that because that comes from this style. And Bruce Lee never did that. I'm not trying to be Bruce Lee. Okay. I'm trying to use what works for me, which is what JKD is supposed to be. It's a personal thing. It's just a name, man. Get over it. It's just a name. It's what they say. It's a boat to get you across the river, right? Once you get there, discard the boat, man. It's a name. Get rid of it. It could be anything. You can call it anything you want. Okay. But people are stuck on this whole JKD, Bruce Lee, JKD. It's got to be his way or no way. It's a personal thing. So how can you say that like, oh, I'm gonna, like I said, if I took Bruce Lee's jacket, it's not gonna fit me. You know what I mean? The geometry of our bodies are different. How are we gonna say that what's gonna work for him is gonna work for me? It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense. There's guys that are making these comments that are probably, I would say, close to 300 pounds. Okay. What works for that guy is not going to work for me, and vice versa. You're not going to ask a guy like that to jump and do a spinning kick in Savate. You're not going to do that, right? So you got to use what works for you. If I think that like an Aikido move will work for me, and it does, and I pull it off, what does it matter? And like the people that are saying all these things about like, that's not real JKD. I do the real JKD because my instructor told me this is what he really wanted. And of course your instructor says that he's biased, of course. The only people I really don't hear that from is from the Inosanto group. We don't talk like that. We don't act like that. We don't care, man. Like, you do what you do. Do your training. But how dare you say that what we do is not JKD, says, who are you? Who are you? I call these people the JKD police because they got to make these stupid comments constantly and say these ridiculous things about, oh, it's a daily decrease, not a daily increase. Okay, pal, you take a person off the street, okay, and you say, okay, I'm gonna teach you Jeet Kune Do. You say, all right, let's go. Okay, start decreasing. Wait, hold on. Oh, why don't you find the cause of your ignorance? What are you talking about? You have to have, if I ask you to make me a sculpture, what are you gonna do? You're gonna need something to do it with, clay or marble, whatever I want.
Yeah.
Okay, so like you have to have a foundation. The idea is to shave down what you've learned, yes, but if you just stick with what Bruce Lee taught you in 1967 and you just build out over and over again, yeah, there is such a thing as mastery. But if you're going to tell me that, oh, my Quan Sao is going to stop a Division I wrestler when he shoots for my legs, you are vastly underestimating that, man. You've obviously never sparred with a wrestler. He is going to take you and he's going to slam you on your head. So the idea that if I don't learn jujitsu or if I learn anything else in grappling or whatever, oh, that's not JKD. Oh no, the JKD it came from Bruce Lee. That's as far as he got. Yeah. He was 32 years old, man. He was in film work. He was, at that point, he was really not researching as much when he was doing film work. But had he had the time, I guarantee you, if he were alive today, I guarantee he would be studying with the Gracies. He would experiment. He would want to see what it's all about, and he was doing judo with Jean LaBelle. Did they forget that part? Did they misunderstand? Did they not read the Tao when he talked about Savat and he talked about Muay Thai and he talked about all this stuff? And I take my information from a guy who was actually an instructor under Bruce Lee, who taught at the school. Okay, so obviously he trusted him enough to understand the Jeet Kune Do that he was telling him, and I get it from and everything that he says. It's not like I'm a sheep. I'm blind and I don't understand anything. I'm just following him blindly. No, I did my research, man. Everything he says, it matches what Bruce Lee's talking about growth as a martial artist, how he doesn't believe in styles anymore, okay? About how if you have a style and you just cap it like that, it's your style, it's in this box, there's no growth at that point. You're just, you're staying in that box. You're not evolving, and we're evolving. That's what we're doing. So if he does Sistema, if he does other things, he's still growing as a martial artist while you're still doing the same things that they were doing in 1964. I would say he's doing it right, man. You guys are, there's nothing wrong with mastery. There's nothing wrong with that. That's it. Yeah. You should learn what they were teaching back in the time. And I like the material. But to stay there, like that's really, I mean, you really want to stay there. And if that's your thing, if that's what works for you, then I have no problem. Do what you do. But my thing is, don't criticize other people because they train in other arts. And I've never heard Dan Inosanto or anybody say, I heard one guy he's kind of he's a weird guy. He kind of spews stuff. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I've never heard Dan Inosanto say that Kali is JKD and JKD is Kali. He's never said that. Those are two separate things. He talks about, he compares some things. There's comparisons. He makes comparisons because they have trapping, they have grappling, they have everything, weaponry, everything. It's a very complete system. It really is. Okay. But to say like, oh, well, Bruce Lee never talked about Kali and whatever, you don't think he experimented. And plus, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Inosanto kind of rejected a lot of Kali growing up. He didn't learn it till later in his life. Because he was kind of like, he talked about he didn't embrace anything that was Filipino for a long time. Right. Yeah. And he ended up learning it later. I think it was around 1964 time, because I think Ed Parker kind of told him, you should really look into it. And he started to do it. But that was like in the early stages. So him and Bruce were kind of experimenting with certain things. And, if Bruce told him, hey, look at this book, read this book, and it was C-Lot and everything. And I mean, I don't understand these people just think that I think, like I said, it's just a lazy way of thinking about JKD. It's like, oh, I know JKD because it's just the Fuji and the Nowtech, and that's all I need. If that saves you, if that makes you feel more secure in getting in a fight, more power to you, man. I can't guarantee that that's going to work for me every time. I gotta learn other ways. I have to have an answer. If someone does get my BG, if someone does get past my now tech, what's my answer? What am I going to do? I have to go back to my training and understand, what did I learn? And if I'm on my back, okay, if I've never been there, I'm not going to have, I don't know what to do. Okay. I'm not going to be able to straight blast my way out of that. Okay. There's other tactics that you have to learn, and you're only going to learn that through experience and through training and through exposing yourself to other ideas, other training. It's just a real narrow-minded view. And I used to be the same way. When I first got into JKD, I only wanted JKD. I didn't want to learn anything else. I didn't want to waste time on Kali. But later I understood. And Kali has so much more benefits than just, being able to, work with a weapon. It has a lot of cognitive benefits. A friend of mine who's in the Inosanto Association, his name is Paul McCarthy. He's a
Kali. Yeah,
cognitive Kali. He's a
I wish I had come up with the name before he did.
I know, right? He's a brilliant guy. He did that study on the TEDx, that TEDx talk that he did, and about cognitive benefits of Kali and how it, can increase your brain's ability to problem solve and break down problems. Yeah, it's really, really interesting, because that's why my instructor told me, when you work with the weapons, everything else gets better, because it smooths everything's over. So it's like, if you look at even CLOT, they teach the tech beat, which is the psi. They teach that last to clean up your technique. There's something to that, So it's really, really interesting. That I really wish I would have embraced it more when I was younger, when I was first starting out, because there's moments. I mean, there's gems there that you can't. Yeah. You can only get from that. It's
but don't worry, it's an old man's art.
When I was talking to someone, and like one of my old instructors, and I said, do you know how to do the Villa thing? And he's like, who does know how to do it? The only guy that I've ever seen do it really good is Dwight Woods. I said, Dwight Woods, he really knows how to do the Villa Braille? Like, oh yeah, he did it. I think you were in Michigan one time, and you were demonstrating it on Inosanto or with Inosanto, and they said that was like really impressive the way you did it. It was really smooth.
Huh.
Yeah,
well,
so you have clear reputation. You have clear reputation.
Yeah. All right, you got to give me an answer to this. How far are you planning to take this, man? What are the plans?
With Jeet Kune Do, or like the school?
Yeah.
Well, for me, this is a lifelong thing. This is all I do. I don't have. I do privates and stuff like that, but this is all I do. So, training and teaching is what I do right now. So what I want to do is I want to grow the school really, really big, as much as I can. But the thing is, the biggest thing I've learned over time of teaching, the only thing that really I've learned that really works is authenticity, like just being yourself, not trying to be someone else, not trying to be Eric Paulson, not trying to be, but you learn things that really I liked about all these men that I've learned from. And like Rick Fay, like I've learned a lot about from Rick Fay just by the way he teaches. And but I'm not Rick Fay. I'm not trying to be Rick Fay. I'm trying to be myself. So I am who I am, and the way that I move and everything. But even like some guys that from my old school, that they would say like, oh, you look like, I could tell you came from like Chris's school, or, you came from Chris Maljury, because you do some of the things the same way he did, the same moves. And it's a compliment. Like, it is. I'm not Chris Maljury, but I mean, I appreciate that. But I even tell my students, I said, listen, I have no desire for you to look like me or move like me, even though that'll happen, it'll happen anyway, for most of you. But you're going to add your own flavor to it. You're going to be I want you to be yourself. And even instructors that I'm going to have at some point, I want them to be themselves. I don't, I can give them a template to say, look, this is the material we're going to teach. But you're going to teach it the way you teach it, not the way I teach it, not the way this person teaches it. You're going to be yourself. And it's really important that I think anybody who's looking to get into teaching or to have a school, I think that if you give them the freedom to be themselves and not be a character, or, I know there's some people that say like, oh man, karate schools are doing this and we're going to do this. And, I don't really believe that. I think that if you're trying to be like someone else, it's going to show. You can't, like, I remember when, you know, there was days where my instructor wasn't there, and you know, I would come to class, and there would be like one of the students that was probably there for like maybe 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever. It was, I don't know what he was teaching classes for, but he probably asked him, "Hey, can you know, pick up the class? I can't make it today," or something. But
Yeah.
when that person would teach the class, it was cringy because they would try to act like him, and they would try to make his jokes, and it was just not coming. It was just, everyone was just like, "Oh God, come on, man, just be yourself, man." I hate when people try to act like other people. Like there's, as much as I love Bruce Lee and I admire Bruce Lee, he's like, you know, he's a hero to me, obviously. I'm not trying to be Bruce Lee. I'm not in here, you know, with sunglasses and, you know, teaching the way he did. You know, I can only be me. You know, I'm not going to try to be Inosanto as much as I love Inosanto. He's a man, but I can't be Inosanto. I don't think anybody can, but I take what I've learned from them, and even like Dave Hatch, everybody that I've learned from. It's you take certain qualities that will help you, and not to say that any of those qualities from these other people they have bad qualities, but I have to be me. I have to take what works for me, and that's what JKD is. I do JKD with everything, with teaching, with anything in life. I adapt what's useful to me as an individual.
Yeah. Are you big on like affirmations and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that affirmations are important.
Okay.
But I think that like, as long as they're like realistic, you know, like, I mean, there's people that I've known that, you know, would tell themselves, you know, "Oh, I'm the greatest martial artist in the world."
Right.
That's great. You could say, I mean, it's a little cocky for me, but to me, like, look, I just want to be the best that I can be. And if I say any affirmations, you know, I know, listen, I'm not dumb. I know that martial arts, the world of martial arts and the industry of martial arts, you're not going to be, there's some people that do really, really well financially. Okay. I'm not looking to be a millionaire, and if that happens, that'd be great. But I've always wanted to do what I love doing. And if you love what you're doing, you don't feel like you're really working. You know, I've known people that have had schools, and they said, you know, yeah, you know, I just want to, you know, build a school so I don't have to be there. And to me, it's like, why don't you want to be there? For me, I want. I come here all the time.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. That is, I mean, that is actually one of the business models that's out there in the business world. Yes. You know, like just like another one is to build a business and sell it.
Yeah.
Right. And those are valid. Those are valid approaches, but that doesn't mean it has to be everybody's approach. All right, I'll give you one more tip and then we'll wrap this up. It's a daily prayer. I'll just give you the ending part of it, because when you talked about the goals for the school and what have you, so the ending part of it is consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. That's integrity and mutual benefit. That's the last part of one of my daily prayers. So if you can, so you can put whatever you need to in front of it, if that makes sense to you.
Yes, sir. I like that. That's really, really good. It's important to have those things, and to just overall to be, like I said, be yourself and be real. My thing is, I always tell everybody, be real. Be real is my saying. That's the biggest thing. It's very hard to, and like Bruce, we used to talk about being, you know, expressing oneself is the hardest thing to do. I think a lot of people have a problem with being real, being themselves, and being like really authentic, because they're afraid of what the people will think about them, and if they really knew what they were really like. And to me, I don't really believe that. I'm not.
You know why? You know why you don't have that problem? You spar. That's why. Because when you do that, there's nothing to hide anymore.
Right.
You know. Right. Anyhow, all right. Listen, man. I'm sure you got other things to do on a Friday evening. So I just want to say thanks so much for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it too, Dwight. It was really great to get to talk to you and to get to know you. I watch your show all the time, and I really thank you for doing what you're doing, because it gives people like us that are huge, JKD nerds, a place
Yeah,
to go. I put your
yeah.
podcast, even if I've seen it before. Like, I watch a lot of like the Burt Richardson ones, even sometimes again and again, and I just
Hmm.
listen to it when I'm doing something. It'll keep me
Yeah.
busy, mind
Well,
occupied.
you'll be happy. I'm a little bit late in my promise to Ed Stahl, who's going to be on, I think, in March also. But I promised Ed Stahl that I would get the audio of all these podcasts online, because there's so many more people who just listen to the audio rather than watching the video of it. So
Yeah.
that's the next goal of mine.
If I could, I'd recommend that if there's people out there that you would like to talk to, if there's some of my closest friends in the JKD world. There's
Victor
a
Gauthier.
there's a Canadian by the name of Albert Kwan. He's a really good guy, and
Yeah.
there's Brett
I
Eckhart.
saw him on here. I saw Albert
Yeah.
Kwan on here. Yeah.
Brett Eckhart is actually he's a really good, really talented martial artist. They're both really talented. They're really,
Okay.
really good friends of mine. So every time we get together at a seminar, we have a lot of fun. So,
Nice.
but there's other guys out there too. That I really like Rick Bashir. He's a really, really great guy. I'd really like to hear what he has to say out there. So.
Yeah. Well, in April, early April, I've got somebody else from Michigan coming on, and she's given me a bunch of names also. So I'm going to be doing this forever, for as long as you guys will put up with me.
Great. Well, I hope to do it again with you one day.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I'll check in with you. All right.
All right. I
Okay.
appreciate
Have
it.
a great evening. Thanks again.
Thank you. See you.
All right. Take care. All right. That was Nick Cavallino, episode 110 of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. So, yeah, so feel free, share, like, and comment, ask questions. I'll go through and review and remove some of the comments after posting. Remember to sign up for notifications when we go live here and on the YouTube for the final edit video. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. ilovejeetkundo.com Quick Skills Series Volume 1 is available. Volume 2 will be produced in 2020. Next Friday, episode 111 with Sean Madigan of Dudes of Kung Fu. All right, I'm really excited to talk to him. So that should be next Valentine's Day, I think it is, at the regular time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, right? So I'll see some of you next week on Wednesday for the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. The rest of you I'll see next Friday for Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys enjoy your weekend. Take care now.
This is one Kick Legend. Today we're going to talk about the Sidekick. Welcome to Kick Legend. Happy Athletic Yard. Put on to your fight. Here with Nick Cavallino of Adaptive Martial Arts, and thought I would get him to show us some of his Sidekick, how he utilizes it. And Nick, take it away.
All right. Well, the Sidekick is one of my favorite kicks personally, and I know it was one of Sijo Bruce Lee's favorite kicks. The good thing about this kick is, to quote Bruce Lee, you're using your longest weapon. And a lot of times you could use it against the closest target, which could be the shin, it could be the kneecap, it could be the thigh, it could even be the hip or the body. Now, when you start to go higher, like more towards the head, which it looks good for films and everything like that, but for reality, you're losing time, because the higher you go, the longer it takes to get there. Even if your kicks are very, very fast, it takes that split second. And a split second is all someone would need, for instance, for like a good wrestler to go and do like a single leg takedown, or to shoot for the hips and take you down. You don't want to waste that much time. You want to be direct as possible. More simplicity is the better. That's the best way to go about it. But we're going to go first with the idea of someone coming at you with any kind of attack. It could be anything from the hands. It could be from the feet. my idea is I'm going to try to stop Roy. So if he throws anything, whatever he does, I'm going to go and stop him. So this is kind of more like I'm just going to sort of lift up and go. I'm not taking any steps. I'm not using that much footwork. I'm just lifting up my leg. It's almost like the dog on the fire hydrant type of thing, kind of like that. It looks like a lazy, ugly kick, but it's really, really effective because it kind of shocks the person. It kind of keeps them where they're at. And then after that, we're going to follow up with any kind of attack that we want. Whether it be boxing, it can go to the clinch. I can take the person down if I wanted to. But this starts everything. This is the gap closer, right? So he's going to initiate anything, let's say, for instance, like a jab. I'm going to stop him with the side kick, right on the thigh. But that doesn't have to be just on the thigh. It can be the kneecap. It can be the shin. It could even be the body. Any one of those is a great, great target to go with. Now, let's say the person has a little bit more of a gap, and I want to initiate. I have to go and attack. So I like to use a lot of fakes or feints, because a lot of times if you're using a side kick and you're using footwork, it gives you a little bit more telegraphic. But in this case, I want to use a fake to the high line and go low. So I'm going to fake high and go low. And after that, I plan down, and now I'm in range to do any kind of attacking. So, for instance, like boxing, or if I wanted to get in trapping, doing trapping range. Like I said, if I wanted to take the guy down, I could take the guy down. But this is the starting point. This is the initiation. This is the closing. This is the entry to get you into that range. For instance, if the person now is kind of coming in and I'm going at the same time, now it's a race against time. This is where your training is going to come into play. All right, so if he comes at me, I go get him too. If he comes at me, I go get him too. But you have to have the time. You get to train that. This is something that you have to put a lot of time into understanding. Also, if you think of it this way, we're using our longest weapon, like you said. From here, if I place my foot there, I'm using my longest weapon. If he tries to hit me with the hands, he's not really going to be able to hit me. I'm out of range. I'm here. So this is a safe kick, a really good one to use, especially for self-defense, especially if you want to get the guy off you and get out, or you hurt the guy and then re-engage into something else.
So I just want to make a quick point here. Nick says it's kind of a lazy man's kick, and it's true, it can look lazy, but I really want to point out, Nick, go into the camera and show your hip alignment.
Okay. Straight line.
Right? So he's using his bone structure to give him that structure. He's not doing this kind of thing, you know? It's kind of lined up with his hips. So it seems lazy, but from the front view, he's not doing this, right? And he's not doing this with his hips out of line. He is at least bothering to turn his body, right? And that's what gives it that stability, that kind of gives him the structure to stop my forward motion. Here. Okay, so I'll put the links in the video description below. Nick Cavallino, Adaptive Martial Arts, will bring you some more in the Sidekick. This Royal Kick legend. Keep your chin down, elevate your striking.
So when he throws that, boom, so I use my hands. Go ahead. Like that. The direction of my knee is going kind of an angle. It's not going straight up, it's going at an angle. So again, boom, that's it. Now it's the continuation of this. You go, bam, okay? Up and out. Again, with that. Bam. Then you follow up. So you don't do this, you don't do this. Oh, did I beat him? No. You gotta go here. Oh, bam. Follow up with something nasty.